Apryl, welcome to the Buena Cura Podcast. I cannot wait to talk to you about some of my favorite topics. And just selfishly, I'm going to be using this time to scratch my own itch and ask a ton of questions that I personally have. So I'm so excited to have you here. But please introduce yourselves.
Thank you, Priscilla. Yes, my name is Apryl. I'm super excited to dive into all things fitness related and how it pertains to us as a Latino community. So I'm ready.
Fantastic. So one of the first questions, and I bet this is what you find a lot in your practice, is that it doesn't work for me, right? You know, you'll try to give someone great fitness advice, and there's always a ton of excuses that can be had. Well, you know, I tried working out, I didn't lose weight, or I'm a busy mom, I can't schedule my workout. So what is it that you give, you know, your clients and Latinos in general advice on when you hear that it doesn't work for me mindset?
So usually with the it doesn't work for me mindset, there's been a lot of failed attempts to try to lose weight or get stronger. And a lot of times it's coming from something not being sustainable. And so they did it for a short amount of time and it wasn't sustainable to last long term for them to actually see those results that they wanted to see. And then they switch to the next thing that they're going to try. So again, going more short term and not being able to see those results that they want to see before they try to switch to something else.
Yeah, I bet. I think as Latinos, we always gravitate towards things like a magic pill or, you know, these miracle potions that we all hear about, or, you know, thinking that we're going to do a linaza diet or something that, you know, our aunts or grandmothers had tried, and then, you know, either we don't stick to it or it just really isn't a long-term solution. So it's funny how, you know, that happens. Why do you find that sometimes health feels inaccessible for Latinos, that it's out of reach?
Yeah. So for many of us, we didn't grow up seeing fitness and healthy habits modeled. But what was modeled was hard work, sacrifice, providing for the family, and putting everyone else first. And so health and self-care can oftentimes feel like a luxury when you're not necessarily seeing that firsthand. And so as adults, choosing to invest more in your health, it can feel very unfamiliar. It can feel selfish, even though it's one of the more important things that we can do.
Yeah, I hear you. And you know what? You're not the first guest that talks about that issue in the Latino community, especially for females. It feels that taking care of ourselves is a luxury. You know, if you're running out the door and have to feed kids breakfast and get, you know, school backpacks ready and, you know, make their lunch and all of the things, it feels that spending even 30 minutes on yourself just to get your day started, you know, we feel it's selfish and that we shouldn't give ourselves that. Are there any, you know, snack routines? And I'm using the word snack because it's something that we want to sneak in. Like, you know, maybe a busy Latino doesn't have an hour and a half in the morning, but is there, you know, a snack version, a smaller version of that you can recommend for people?
So starting your day, prioritizing yourself in that regard, that doesn't take too much time. I usually like to start with something small, especially since a lot of people aren't that hungry in the morning, whether that's some ready to eat overnight oats or a yogurt that has fruit or granola in it, or even as simple as a protein shake or protein bar, just so that way you're starting your body off with something and it's a little bit more satiating for you rather than just going for some other types of food that may not be as filling.
Yeah, of course. I feel that getting that first step in the day, you know, I sometimes feel that if I skip my morning routine, then the whole day goes off the rails. I try to work out in the morning. If I don't get to it in the morning, it just doesn't get done. And I'm thinking I'm not alone there.
Definitely not. I hear that all the time. I'm the same way as well. By the time the day's over, I'm too tired and I don't, working out is the last thing that I want to do.
Yeah, I think we're depleted both mentally and physically at the end of the day. So tell me a little bit about the appeal for quick fixes and miracle solutions. I know we talked about, you know, the Latino community over indexing and, you know, buying this shake or this mushroom coffee, and like all the tias are recommending it. Why do we gravitate towards those, you know, quote unquote quick fixes?
Yeah. So I really think it's because they promise fast results with a temporary effort. So when most people believe that the alternative of this quick fix is long-term suffering. So cutting carbs, endless cardio, or giving up all of the favorite foods that you enjoy. And so when you compare those two, the easy answer is always going to be choose the short-term discomfort. But most people don't realize is that sustainable results don't require long-term suffering.
Yeah, I feel you're correct that we categorize a fitness routine or, eating healthy as suffering. But once you start on your journey, I think a lot of people are surprised that they find joy in being healthy.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many things that come with being healthy. You feel more energized. You feel more present with your family, your friends, and you feel more confident. And this confidence and sort of lack of insecurities now tend to travel and expand into your other parts of your life, whether it's work or family or just moving better.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you say moving better, what does that mean, right? I think we all sometimes get overwhelmed thinking that we need a perfect workout routine or we need an expensive gym membership. Like, what does moving better mean?
So moving better is going to be relative for each person since each of us is unique. And so it could mean being able to pick up your kids and put them in the stroller or the car seat. It could be having the strength to help out an elder in the car or out of bed, or it could be moving with less pain, especially with, I don't know about you, but one of the things I hear often is chronic pain from
Yeah.
everyone. And so moving with less pain, moving more freely, or doing things in your daily life that feel like less of a struggle.
Yeah. And is there a certain, if someone is just starting out, what would be your recommendation? Would you say, do a little bit of cardio or get into weightlifting? Like, how can someone take that first step with fitness?
So the first step would be to realize that you cannot change your life in a 360 fashion overnight. If you are looking for the results that will last you lifelong as opposed to kind of yo-yoing back and forth from being healthy, feeling unhealthy, then the biggest thing to do is start with small, achievable goals that you can sustain and then build on top of before you continue.
And what are some of those, is there a practical kind of, tip that you would have for someone? Like, what's a small goal? Is it just, getting that protein intake up or, walking a few more steps? What would you recommend for someone?
So I would recommend walking more, moving more in whatever capacity that looks like. Like I said before, each person is unique. So for some people, a big step for them is going to be a 10-minute walk every single day. For other people, maybe they're already going to the gym and adding in an extra day of working out or of exercising is going to be that additional step for them. So if you're just starting out as a beginner, my advice would be to move as much as you can with whatever activity you enjoy and eat as much protein as you can because it will satiate you a lot more and make it feel like what you're eating is actually providing you the nutrients to have the energy for all this additional exercise that you're doing.
Nice. And then I have another, question. Are you seeing any differences in generations? Like, are younger Latinos having a different approach to fitness than their parents? Anything there?
In the approach itself, yes. I find that a lot of older generations, regardless of the Latino community, is more hesitant to lift heavier. But in terms of generational differences of older generations maybe working out less, that's what I see. Older generations often rely on older remedies, quick fixes because they're accessible and because they were focusing on survival and providing for their families first. Meanwhile, these younger generations are starting to prioritize self-care, but only because it was possible from the sacrifices that were made in the generations before them.
That's so interesting, right? Like, we get to reap the fruits of our parents' labor. And it's interesting that, as generations progress, we might take some of those things for granted, right? Like, you are able to set aside an hour or two a day because your parents toiled and worked really hard to make that happen. So it's really interesting. It makes me very grateful, certainly.
Absolutely. I feel very grateful for the position that I'm in, for the life that I get to live, and I know that it wouldn't have been possible without all of the sacrifices that were made before.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, certainly. And it is, someone like you and me that's a second or first generation Latina, and they're seeing their parents, maybe get a little bit older and not take care of themselves. Like, what's one tip that you can give that person to help influence their parents that gave them so much?
That's such a great question. And I love it. So when I was taking my certification to become a personal trainer, it kind of talks about different ways to assist different groups of people. And this was one of the topics that was mentioned in there. And I didn't realize how important it was or how well it worked until I tried it myself. And so for older populations, what they need more of is family and friend support. So for someone like myself who wants to get my parents to exercise more, rather than trying to get them to go do it on their own and say, well, you need to work out or you should eat healthier, and kind of having this negative feeling to it, it's more supportive in the sense of, now after we eat dinner, instead of asking or saying, hey, we should go on a walk, I'm just going to say, hey, let's go on a walk. And because my parents want to spend time with me, they're going to say, of course, let's go. Or let me put my shoes on. And so giving that support is a lot more important, because now they feel like, one, they're not alone in their journey to do it, and it's not something that they have to do by themselves without the knowledge of what to do. Now they're just joining you in an activity.
Yeah. And I think it's shifting that mindset like we were talking about earlier, right? Like, it's not a burden. It's not something that is negative. It's not a sacrifice. It's a lifestyle. It's, I fit in 10 minutes of walking after my meals, which, by the way, that big study came out. I know even the New York Times, had a big article on how it helps your glucose levels. Like, even 10 minutes of walking after, or, squats or whatever activity helps so much in terms of, health benefits after a meal. So it's something that we should all be incorporating. So I'm going to, turn the topic to something a little bit more light. What's one big fitness myth you wish would disappear?
One of the biggest fitness myths that I wish would disappear is that carbs are bad for you.
Yes. Okay.
We absolutely need carbs for our body to survive, to be energy. Well, right now I've been reaching more towards rice cakes because I'm in a calorie deficit. So it's something that I can snack on quickly without taking me super beyond my calories. If I'm not in my calorie deficit, I'm more likely to grab like a pastry or eating extra tortillas.
Yeah, tortillas are a good one. They go quick though. You're sitting down to eat and they're accompanying the meal. Next thing you know, you've had a couple and you're like, where did that go? They're gone. And if you could make, every Latino adopt one healthy habit tomorrow, what would that be?
It would be eat more protein and understand your macros in whatever capacity that you can, whether it's tracking it or just being a little bit more mindful of the things that you're eating on your plate.
Yeah, I love that. I think everybody doesn't realize that we need, I think the rule of thumb is 1 gram of protein per every pound of weight, right? So if I'm a female that weighs over 100 pounds, getting over 100 grams of protein throughout the day is something you actually have to plan for, think about, prioritize, even if you're out at a restaurant, prioritizing that protein.
Exactly.
And what's one exercise everybody complains about, but they secretly need?
I would say Bulgarian split squats.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, everybody hates them, but they're so great they challenge so many parts of your body. They go for the single leg balance. They engage your core. They help your legs, your hip mobility, everything. So I would say Bulgarian split squats.
I love that one. And when you're on a time crunch, when you have a very short amount of time, what's your go-to workout?
I usually opt for a full body workout, even though I don't really prefer them, just to make sure that I'm hitting at least every muscle group once.
Nice. And then, what would people be surprised to learn about you outside of fitness?
As someone in fitness, I think sometimes people are surprised that I'm a really big foodie, or like I just really enjoy eating, and that I haven't always been fit and active. I think that sometimes we assume that people that are in fitness have always been healthy or have always been a lower BMI, but that is definitely not my case.
And what was your turning point from, maybe having not such a healthy lifestyle to now being what you do day in and day out? What was that turning point?
So for me, my turning point started in high school. A little bit more because I was playing soccer for about 9, 10 years, and I knew that I wasn't going to continue in college because I was prioritizing my studies. And so I still wanted to be active. And so I gravitated towards the gym and I just fell in love with it.
Nice. Yeah. It happens, right? Once you start, you don't stop. I think that's one of the biggest myths too, that, we embark on that journey and then you miss it. If you miss a few days of working out, you don't feel like yourself, your energy is off. So I think that's one of the surprises people find when they start working out. Well, Apryl, I want to thank you so much for your time. You gave us so many fantastic practical tips. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the socials, so on Instagram, built_by_Apryl, or on my website, builtbyapryl.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.